So Piyush, just give us a sense of the scale of the operations of Lenskart.
Just to put some numbers in context, we are today about 5,000 plus people. 1,000 of these are in the corporate, and then a large 3,000 plus people in the stores. Another 1,000 people work in our factories. We are now about 750 plus stores. We are opening at the rate of about 20 to 30 stores a month, even in lockdown. In terms of number of glasses, we are processing close to about 25,000 pairs a day, which comes to about 7 to 8 million pairs. And then we're expecting this to grow over 50% this year. And in terms of just eye exams that we do per day, we are doing close to about 15,000 eye exams every day, which is a combination of what we do in the stores as well as at home or corporate. Technology, we are now about a 300 people tech team, which includes engineers and data scientists, machine learning, AI. We also have a decent sized office now in Singapore. So in Singapore, we are now the second largest optical retailer. We just started about a year and a half back. We have about 20 stores in Singapore and about 100 people team.
These are phenomenal numbers. The 20, 30 stores that you're opening up every month, where is the focus? Is it going to be largely tier 1, tier 2 cities, or is that equally distributed?
I would say 50% are still tier 1 because we still want to go deep in the 7 to 10 key cities. And then 50% are spread more in the next 40, 50 cities.
Piyush, starting a fund to invest in startups is a very unique and revolutionary idea for a company that is as young as you are. What's the vision behind the Lenskart Vision Fund?
See, what we have seen and personally experienced is that entrepreneurs and who have a passion and hunger to change the world, to do something, they often end up delivering something that we can't even imagine, creating something revolutionary. The pace, the resources at which they do it is just very, very difficult to achieve this inside, right? So real innovation, actually is sitting and happening outside. And a lot of this good innovation doesn't necessarily, even though it is very, very valuable, it doesn't necessarily get that kind of access to consumers to be able to test it. If you're not from that domain, it's very difficult for you to understand the value that it would create. And not every revolutionary idea can be looked at from an Excel perspective.
Right.
That this is the revenue it will generate, this is the EBITDA. And if honestly, the reality is if you start looking at it from an Excel perspective, you may not even be able to invest in some of this. Right? And some of these things, for example, if you were to work on Google Maps and that was your idea, how many years before which you will even see the first dollar in revenue and how many people are willing to fund? So the idea of Vision Fund, Lenskart Vision Fund is really to look at these consumer-centric ideas, which will really change the game and provide them with three key things. One is access to customers, because a lot of these technology innovations, product innovation, let's say you have a new innovative product and you want to test it with consumers, first company would welcome you. You would not be able to try them with customers. By the time you get into contracts, etc., negotiations, you've lost half the year. So give you access to this customers, even if it's a technology and you want to try it out. Success to any valuable service or product lies in the feedback loop. So if you are able to go back to the customers and bring that back and keep iterating on the basis of that, 50-60% of the success is guaranteed. And if you look at most businesses, there's so many layers. There's a manufacturer, there's an importer, then there's a wholesaler, there's a retailer. Even if you had a great product idea, by the time you test it, then if customer had a feedback, it would never reach you. So, and I've seen if you can fulfill this loop, and even if you had a great idea, for example, if you want to solve the problem of doing an eye checkup using a mobile phone, you could have all the science and AI, etc. But the only way you will be able to get something which is real and working is if you can test it with real customers, understand what's working, not working, bring it back, change it, and that looping has to be fast enough. And I've seen this even in our own business, even when you want to improve our product quality. If the people in the store are telling somebody and they're telling somebody, and the guy who's fitting the glasses gets it in 4 steps, it's never going to improve. Whereas if you can just make that loop shorter and everybody could, then the looping is faster. So that's one big idea. The second is a lot of times I've seen that the creative minds, at least in the initial stages, you do not expect them to be finance gurus. You do not expect them to know everything from a tech side. If you're a product company, if you're a tech company, you may not know everything about consumer and product. So fill those gaps wherever they are needed, because we have a branding and consumer team, and we're doing a few startups right now, which we are funding right now, and it's really helpful. Because imagine you have a great product idea and you want to get a nice logo design, get a nice packaging design. If you go out to an agency, you'll start talking about 20, 30 lakhs initially to do it, and that's all the money you have. So we
Right.
have a team in-house which can work with you, and these are all people who have come from top agencies. They can help you position this right, brand this right. Similarly, if you're doing something and you need a little bit of tech support, you need some business analytics, all of this support you can provide. And third, lastly, is capital, which obviously you can get outside also. But in this case, our capital is a little different, because we are not putting in our capital saying, okay, we want to raise the next round, so you deliver this kind of revenue for us to get there. It's largely with the consumer value proposition and saying, if you're trying to solve this problem, here's the capital, go solve it. As long as we're on that journey and we're making progress, we'll continue to fund it. So I think so it's slightly different from a regular PE VC fund. And I think if the company is in the space of eyewear, whether it is product, whether it is service, whether it's technology, chances of us helping you be able to grow 10 times more than any other VC capital is very, very high. If you are
Absolutely.
somebody
And
who's just a pure tech product and you're not from the eyewear space, then I think also there's a lot of high, because especially if you're relevant to us. So we invested in Tango, and in Tango, it's a computer vision product. It's relevant to all other categories, but at least now he can test in 500 stores of Lenskart. Tango is today live, and he's constantly making sure that it is valuable to our business CXO, and we have connected it to him. And it has taken almost 6-9 months for him to say, okay, I was trying to build this, but the business doesn't need this. And today he has signed up 2 more clients. Nika is a customer, and 1 more company, mobile company, is a customer.
what I hear you saying is there's a lot of strategic value that you will be able to bring it, which is helping a company accelerate their journey from whatever stage they are at to a reasonably mature stage where otherwise would have taken them a lot of time. And you have the production side, you have the branding side, you have the distribution side, you've got customers, you've got domain experts, all these different stakeholders that they would have otherwise had to connect independently or now all channeled together, and that comes in along with the capital that goes into the business.
Yes.
that
And I'll
that's
give you a lot of examples, right? Today, you look at John Jacobs, it's the largest eyewear brand in India, luxury eyewear brand. Even the sales is today even getting higher than Ray-Ban. And this is all created by a set of young entrepreneurs. Today, we are building Aqualens, which is a contact lens brand. And it is today the second, almost turning out to be the second largest brand in India, 20% market share, such a branded category. Similarly, I gave you example of Tango. They are building computer vision, and there are a lot of companies out there. But the one thing I can guarantee you, the results Tango will be able to get, because they are being used real time by our own leaders, they'll be far better, and they'll be able to, I'm pretty sure they'll become number 1 in this category very soon. So I think we are seeing this work. What is important for us is to give these founders enough freedom and space, and it sort of works good for them and good for us, and their ability to hustle, struggle, do more with less, hire that kind of talent, work long hours. So we, in all of this, our formula is keep the entrepreneur at the center, let him run the way he or she would run, let them make the mistakes. They have their own teams, their own people policies, their everything. We just come in and help them in terms of where it is needed, which largely has been providing access to a testbed of customers or business, or helping them in these areas which are usually very expensive and difficult to understand, which are consumer side of things or tech. And then so far we have 100% success rate in every startup we have funded.
And that's phenomenal. I mean, because what you're doing is you're actually making it easier for them to access the resources, which otherwise they would have been struggling to, put together.
One of the startups that we funded early stage was working on vision correction, and it got sold for $100 million in a year. 100% acquisition. So it's not just that we are funding a startup and the only exit for them is that Lenskart owns them fully. We took a minority stake. Of course, in some startups, we could come up with a majority stake, especially if they're non-revenue generating. But this startup got bought for $100 million. We also made money, but more than money, I think what we help them do is they could test their technology in 400 of our home eye test clinics. When they came in, they were about 50% accurate. When they got sold, they were more than 99% accurate.
Fantastic, great stuff. We used to understand your mind a little better on what qualities you seek in a startup. I'm going to ask you to shift a little away from the domain and give us a sense of two or three startups outside of your industry that have impressed you and some of the reasons why you felt that they were impressive.
Yeah, so I think one of the startup I am quite impressed with is this company called Mojo Care right now, early stage. I think Chirate is an investor. The other company I'm quite excited about is Infido, which is working on the people side, technology side. Then I think Go Mechanic is another company that feel quite interested about. Is they're building a early stage business here. I think a lot of it is the entrepreneur and how passionate they are about that subject, and I think it's super crucial. Second, I think I look for is how real they are. And this is a mistake that I've made in the past. Are they able to sell their idea better? Are they able to orate it better? Because it's not just important for funding, it's also important to hire the right talent. And are they real are they open to feedback? If they think something is wrong, are they totally attached and glued to their own idea? Or they can sort of sit back and go back and say, okay, no, I could be wrong and let me listen to this. Are they able to really detach themselves from the business and idea and they're not very, very personal about it? So that is another thing that is super crucial to me. I think everything to me is largely about the founder, if you ask me. That's 80%. And then 20% is the idea, to be honest, as long as it is relevant.
And how important would be experience in the domain and their deep understanding of the domain? So they may have an idea, they may have an insight that is relevant, but have got really no experience in either any industry and certainly may not have an experience in your industry. How important would that be or not important?
It is important. Like I'll tell you, we are building few more startups right now. One is we are building an insurance startup. There's an entrepreneur called Jay Agarwal. He was in the consulting space and he's been in insurance consulting. And what he's building is an eyewear insurance startup. Right. So there is some relevant experience there. It's not that he has been an entrepreneur or he used to run an insurance company, but he comes from the insurance domain. We are building a startup for a very, very simple subscription-based eyewear. Now, these guys have never done eyewear, but they have built an online commerce business which was into subscription for events. And now they are building and we are fully funding them. They are hiring their own team. We're building one more startup which is around training. And this entrepreneur used to run an tech firm. So I think there is some relevance, but it's not that important. For example, Mojo Care is a startup that I'm an investor in a personal capacity, and I really like the entrepreneur. He has no experience of building startup, but he used to work in a fund and he had very clear idea of this category. And I felt that he understood consumers. So I think it is important and not important. It is important to the extent that if it is a domain that if e-commerce, for example, if you don't know tech and you're trying to build a tech firm, I would be really cautious.
Of course. Got it. You've already answered that question to some extent, but what are the kind of companies that you would be looking to invest in via the Lenskart Vision Fund? And the next question, what are the opportunity areas that you see where aspiring entrepreneurs can think about creating businesses in?
I think I would categorize this into three broad areas. The first area is product companies. So if you have a product idea which is phenomenal in terms of you're creating these reading glasses which stick on the nose, you're creating smart eyewear, or you're creating a product which is revolutionary from the perspective it can change people's lives, the way they look at a problem. For example, you have a unique contact lens. And a lot of these ideas, I would say, is largely fall in the eyewear category or something related. It is not a must, but something which you feel is relevant. For example, it could be a hearing aid, but it is an essential. And we've looked at companies which are developing innovative hearing aid. So that is one product company. The second bucket of companies are tech companies. And these tech companies can further be divided into various areas. They could be a tech company which is solving problem for a consumer at the front end, which is how are they making the experience of the consumer better on the mobile phone. There could be companies which are more on the retail side and how are they making consumer experience better, store experience better, store operations better on the store side. Or there are omni-channel companies which are tying all of this together. Or they could be merchandise improvement companies. which are helping you merchandise better on the website, on the store. So anything related to the consumer experience, consumer conversion business. And then there are companies on supply chain side. So are you a robotics company which is developing some robot automation? Now you could do automation for tons of things, but we would invest in your skill and we may ask you to build some automation for us also. And so anything on the supply chain side, ERP, automation, robotics, any such thing. And there are a lot of other services, for example, logistics is a big area. You know, you're developing some service around logistics. Anything which would allow any sort of omni-channel or e-commerce business to work better. Lenskart can be one of your customers, but you could have many other customers. So that's second area. The third area is you're pretty much a business, you're a retailer. Now you could be a retailer in another market. Outside India, you could be a retailer. You could just be doing what Lenskart is doing, but in tier 3, tier 4. Or you could be doing what Lenskart is doing, but with a doctor ecosystem. You could be building this business in Australia, in Germany, in US, in Africa, in Mexico, and your early stage, or you're building a direct to consumer eyewear brand in India or outside. If it is early stage, and that is important, then we would largely be excited about supporting you, helping you grow that business overall.
Peyush, you've articulated all these things very well. Thank you very much for your time.